Thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Economic Development Corporation. I'm Jim Cardle. Well, the legislature's been going for a little over a month here in Austin, and the issues are beginning to be hashed out in both the House and the Senate. We're pleased to be able to visit today with one of the top 5 most conservative members consistently in the House of Representatives. State Rep Dan Flynn is from House District 2. He's chairman of the House Pensions Committee as well as a member of the Defense and Veterans Affairs Committee. While most people may not have noticed, the pensions issue for the cities of Dallas and Houston are quite the news these days, and we're pleased to be able to visit with State Representative Dan Flynn, chairman of the Pensions Committee, on that and more important issues. State Representative Dan Flynn, thanks for joining us today.
What a pleasure for me to be able to do it again.
We always appreciate your time coming by, and boy, I'm telling you, here at the beginning of this session, not a bigger issue, frankly, in some people's minds, certainly those of us in the financial industry in the past. You are, again, your second term, congratulations, chairman of the House Pensions Committee.
That's right.
And it's an issue of great import, but one that kind of slips under the radar screen unless you're really paying attention. So I want to just jump right into it and thank you for your work on this issue, but give us an update. What is the status of the Houston and Dallas city pensions, and what's your outlook? Tell us what you've been up to and the breadth of the problem, if you can.
Without question, Houston and Dallas are the biggest issues in the pension field, but there are a huge number of pensions throughout the state of Texas in big dollars. But the Houston and the Dallas pension are out of control. They both have over billions of dollars of holes that have to be filled, and at this point, through our interim, we've been working on it, so it's not something that we've just started on, and it's not a problem that just started. This is a problem that's been building for, in some cases, 20 years and 10 years, and many people have an opportunity to do something, but they just kick the can down the road. So we decided when we looked at it, the pension programs were going to go broke in both cities if we didn't do something this session. Mm-hmm. We had to do that. So we've tackled them. I have great staff, Kelly Lenza in the Houston issue and David Aronakis in the Dallas pension. And we had committee hearings in Houston and Dallas, invited anybody in the public to come in and be a part of it. And at this point, an issue that everybody said could not be solved, we do have a bill that is being promoted by the mayor, Sylvester Turner of Houston, and it's going through the process right now.
One of your former colleagues here in the House.
That's right, that's right. And then last night, the Pensions Board in Dallas voted 9-0 unanimously. That includes some Dallas council people and some firemen and police officers. And they voted 9-0 to accept the Flynn plan, and we're looking forward to that. And I met with Mayor Rawlings of Dallas yesterday morning, and he's, I don't want to say he's 100% on it, but he was certainly 99 and 44, 100% on it. And we believe that it's going to be something that happens. It's something that has to happen. I have 3 issues with it. I got to achieve actuarial soundness. Got to do that. I want to be sure we have a pension that takes care of the retired firemen and police officers and municipals. And I want to be sure that the new people coming in have a pension that they can count on and be pleased to be a part of the Dallas or Houston.
Well, let's break it down a little bit. A lot of folks will know that they have retirement taken out of their paycheck. When you have retirement withdrawn from your paycheck, it goes into a pension fund or into your self-driven 401k or whatever. You're talking about then negotiating with some of the unions or the fire or the police representatives to overpromise future returns. You've got shortfalls. You're seeing it all over the nation, frankly. But
yes.
Talk about the basic pension 101.
It's, I'll tell you what, it's one of those very complicated issues. You can get in the weeds real quick about
exactly.
it. There is a drop account that is something that plays into what we're doing. Kind of a misconception on the part of a lot of people is that, and let's talk about Dallas first,
okay,
is that Dallas never put all the money that they were required to put in. They did. The city of Dallas put all the money that they were required by law to put in there.
Because your own personal contributions are matched by your employer.
And the big deal there is that the pension board started increasing benefits, and they paid an 8.5% return during a time which was the largest, worst economic issues that we faced, and the best return you could get was 0.5% or 1%.
Right.
So it was a recipe for failure, and sure enough, that's what was happening. So we believe that, first of all, we had to, and they were doing an automatic raise. Automatic COLA, whether or not they had the money coming in. They took huge investment losses. And it was kind of like one of those things where everything was going wrong and nobody was stepping up. You had a number of previous people that should have stepped up and done something,
Okay.
and now they're ready to help. But you know what? They should have helped when they were there. The bottom line is we're not kicking the can down the road anymore. We're going to solve the problems of the Houston and the police pensions. And it's been an issue that has occupied every minute of our day, all through from last session to right now. I met with a huge group of Dallas firemen and policemen just this morning,
Okay.
and with the mayor of Dallas yesterday, the mayor of Houston. We think because we have a bill, it's House Bill 43, and it's going forward. And as I've told my colleagues on the floor, you know what? If you want to solve the problem, today is the day that we're going to do it. And that's where we are.
And talk about some of the numbers. You've got number of employees and you've got dollars promised. What contextually are some of the numbers, not to put you on the spot, you probably know them, that are involved here for people, and will the state, for instance, be putting any money in?
Well, that was the first question at every one of our meetings is we want the state to put in $1.8 billion or something like that.
I'm sure.
I've told them from the very beginning, do not expect the state of Texas to put any money in it. We will not do that. Fact is, at the hearing, I stood up on the dais and I pointed out to them and said, that will not happen. You need to solve your problem, and we're here to solve it. And we're talking about filling a hole of about $8.5 billion
Really?
in both cities. So we're not talking about small dollars. The big issue here is also one that I told the firemen today. I said, Dallas bond rating has fallen 3 different times. If they fall again, it could affect the state of Texas bond ratings. We're not going to allow that to happen. And I mean, we're getting calls from Wall Street, and they've told me in both cases, if you have a plan, we can work with you. But if you don't even have a plan, we're going to continue to downgrade. And so that's where we are, and we believe we're closer right now than we've ever been. It's without question a problem that is as big as there is in Texas, and we plan on solving it.
How about, you mentioned in Texas, I know following this issue, it's been a question not only in Texas, but in other cities, other states around the country. You mentioned the bond ratings. Is Texas leading in solving the solution here, or what do you see other states and cities perhaps?
Texas enjoys the highest bond rating that you can enjoy for a state. I have worked with the Fort Worth, and Mayor Betsy Price is to be congratulated. What a great job she does in Fort Worth in handling hers.
Okay.
El Paso, San Antonio, Lubbock, Austin. We've gone through all of their pensions, and these are the 2 that have the problems. And there's a lot of small cities that are also involved, but no one is anywhere near the problem. Now, we can point the finger at anybody you want to. There is plenty of blame to go around for everybody that is out there. There really is, and that's what I told them. I said, we can go and point blame some other day, but today we need to solve the problem. The suggestion that, we'll just go bankrupt. We don't do that in Texas. That's what California does. We solve problems in Texas. And that's been our mantra from the day, those 3 issues that I told you. I said, it's very simple. When I've talked to the bond pension boards, or I've talked to the mayors or the city councils, whoever, said those are the things that we have to do in order to do this. The Pension Review Board of the state of Texas is also looking at our proposals,
Okay.
and they've given us an okay that we can achieve those actuarial soundness, which is what we have to do. If you'll recall, last session, the ERS, State Employee Retirement System, had major problems, had been actuarially unsound for 20 years. And by the grace of God and a lot of hardworking legislators,
You solved it.
we solved the problem, and now it's one of the strongest ones. In fact, it went through the Sunset Commission during this last session, and that'll be a bill that we will continue operation of that ERS. But today we're worried about Houston and Dallas, and as I've told everybody, as a kid playing ball, went against some really tough teams in my life, and I never went against any of them I didn't think we could win. And this is the same way with this. I believe that we can solve this problem. I had tremendous support from a lot of people, and on the other hand, there have been a lot of people that have really worked against us. We've had some real challenges that we've had to overcome. There's no question it is on the minds of everyone. In my home county, I have a lot of retired law enforcement and firemen that are there, and they're very concerned, and I share their concern, because you work 30 years and you think you're counting on something, and all of a sudden somebody's going to try to jerk it away from you. It's not going to happen. We're going to protect those. Now, everybody's going to have shared sacrifice. That's the way it is. We're living in a world where private industry just does away with pensions. But we're Texas, and we're going to own up to our responsibilities, even though the state, we have given that authority to the cities. And the cities have got to solve their problems, and we're going to stay with them until they do solve them.
Speaking of solving problems, I want to jump to another subject. Thanks again, folks, for joining us for this edition of Texas Insider TV. We're visiting with State Representative Dan Flynn from House District 2, Chairman of the Pensions Committee, and on the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. Representative, another effort of yours is what's referred to as American law on American soil. A fairly commonsensical, it appears, issue, but something that you've been working on has to do with Sharia law and potentially other UN, perhaps, regulated laws of the land not being applied in America. Give us an update on the laws of the land, American soil effort that you've been working on, if you can.
And we're not attacking any particular religion, any particular law, other than we want American law to be administered in Texas courts. And it's an issue that I think that the people of Texas want. It's one of those issues that when you start doing a survey of what are concerns of people, it's very concerning that we have folks coming into this country because they enjoy our freedoms, they enjoy the liberties that we have, and then they want us to change our culture. We're not going to do that. It's concerned me greatly, so greatly that I filed this a bill that I filed last session, and it got hung up on some of the issues that shouldn't have, but it did. And so we've come back. Legislative victories are 1 inch at a time.
Yes, sir.
And so we've moved the ball a little bit last session. This session, we're working with the family law courts. They agree with us. I got the Attorney General to give us an opinion of what those family law judges had to consider. His opinion was very strong that they did not have to consider any law but Texas law.
I know you mentioned Attorney General Paxton. I know in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex there's been some Tea Party concerns, some local concerns in the city of Irving. Talk about how you perhaps address issues that have come to the forefront and been in the news lately in terms of what folks in the Metroplex might be able to gain as a result of your legislation.
Without question, the mayor of Irving has had a lot of challenges. They've pushed her pretty hard, and that's unfortunate because it is an emotional issue. But on the other hand, it's not emotional. We use English common law, and we're going to continue to operate laws according to our state. And when this pushback, and it is, people want to put it into a different text than what we are. As far as we're concerned, we operate under the rule of law, and the rule of law is Texas law, English common law, and that's where we're going to be. And anybody that wants to introduce their laws or their culture is not going to be accepted, and our judges do not have to accept it, according to an opinion by the Texas Attorney General.
Speaking of laws, you also have another effort. It's a issue in various states these days. Religious liberties, a huge issue
right.
in the national Trump campaign and Hillary Clinton. You've got another effort that you're working on to allow local county clerks and other officials who are responsible for the marriage of a man and a woman. Tell us about your religious liberties efforts, if you can.
Here again, it goes back to common sense, and it is also the law. We believe in being able to have a freedom in this country, and for the courts, the state, the government to tell me as an elected official that I have religious convictions against certain things, it's wrong. And we're not going to allow it to happen. And so we're going to put it on the books of the state of Texas that if someone comes and wants you to do something that is opposed to your religious convictions, you don't have to do it. I mean, often the whole issue is people are trying to push the envelope. Mm-hmm. They don't care about the issue as much as they're trying to push the envelope, and they will sacrifice good people who have strong religious convictions, and we should have opportunity to support them in that. And that's what this is all about. We've got about 6 different issues that we're filing. It's kind of a package deal.
Okay.
We're working with Texas Values. You know them, the Jonathan Size, a good, strong conservative guy, and we're happy to work with him. We're happy to work with all the members that are doing those kind of things. One thing that I didn't tell you about, and it is off the subject, but
Okay.
I want people to know that the federal government owes us $2.8 billion for what we've done on the border.
On the border, you're right. I know you were involved in a press conference about a month ago presenting a bill to the federal government for
That's
that.
exactly right.
That
and
amount.
we filed that bill last session. It was $1.8 billion. Well, it's $2.8 billion now, and I'm tired of them telling me the check's in the mail. I'm a banker, and I know the checks in the mail means nothing. I want the cash in the cash drawer.
Well, let me ask you about that, and we'll wrap up. I know you got a couple events to go to here this evening. In issue after issue across the country, and it was manifested in this election, what perhaps are you seeing on the floor of the House, the mood amongst your peers this session after the last election? Has there been any new outlook? Is there a bit of a hope that you might be able to do some of these things that we've been talking about, or is it still fighting the fight that folks want to change some of our American culture?
Well, you know, it is interesting because what's happening is the rhetoric out of Washington is one that if you go talk and survey anybody on the street, they're agreeing with what he says. So it comes that the other party or those activists on the left, it's an issue that they just want to fight. But on the other hand, if you go talk to their constituency, everybody wants America to be strong. Everybody wants us to maintain our culture in this country. Everybody wants to see America strong abroad. We need a strong military. We need to have that. We have to have it. Ronald Reagan was our champion on that, and I believe that President Trump will also be a champion on that. Having been spending my time and as much time as I did in the military, it's very important to me. The strong family values that we have, maintaining the Second Amendment rights, the 10th Amendment. I have a bill about the 10th Amendment where the states created a federal government, not the federal government of the states. And so we're seeing and believing that we're going to see a new sheriff in town that is going to uphold those traditional values of the United States of America. And I see on both aisles. People, we don't have aisles in Texas, but and some of my friends in a different party, they feel just as strong as I do about American values. They don't want their kids to go somewhere that that would be disruptive to their life or those values or those freedoms that we've all enjoyed. Second Amendment, public education. We need to have everything in line. We have a great country, greatest country in the world, and we get to enjoy being in the greatest state, in the greatest country in the world.
Yes, we do. And speaking of keeping things in line, I know you've got a schedule to adhere to. Brigadier General, I should have mentioned during our conversation, as well as Chairman of the House Pensions Committee, State Representative from District 2, Dan Flynn. Thanks for joining us.
My honor and privilege, and thank you for all the work you do to educate Texans.
Well, we appreciate it and appreciate you joining us, folks, for this edition of Texas Insider TV. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle. Thanks for joining us.